Porch lights on, and I'm coming home. Keep your faith in me, and I'll be there before too long.
Hi, I'm Seth Flake. Welcome to the Key of Life. Today I have with me Michael Thomas from the Bonfire Orchestra. Michael, you guys are based out of Tupelo area?
We are.
And you're the founder of the Bonfire Orchestra, correct?
I am.
Right on. Can you tell us a little bit of history about how you got started with that particular project?
Sure. I suppose, wow, it's probably 2010. So I think we probably just passed our 8th anniversary or something like that. I really got a pretty late start playing music. I was out of high school. I just picked up the guitar. I'd been a basketball player, but I blew out my ACL.
Okay.
So I had to find some other way to strike up conversations with women. And I'd heard playing guitar was a good way to do that. So I started playing and writing songs, and stunningly, people let me continue to do that, even now. The Bonfire Orchestra, I guess, was the evolution of me as a songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm a writer. I don't know that I'm a particularly good writer or songwriter, but eventually I was able to learn how to craft songs. You know, to take these stories that I could probably in my head could expand over the course of a novel and boil them down to 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
Ideally. And the Bonfire Orchestra was probably the first version of that really started to make sense to me. I was finding my way out of the wilderness for a long time,
Yeah.
trying to find a way to connect the stories that I had in here and find a way to get them out. And I think I was pretty limited as a musician. So the Bonfire Orchestra was just the beginning of me being able to do that. It's been something of a rotating cast of characters as far as bandmates.
Right.
Different people who brought different elements for different seasons.
Sure.
All of which I'm thankful for, and I think have allowed me to grow as a musician and a storyteller. We still play probably 200 shows a year now.
Wow.
And currently it's a 4-piece, drums, lead guitar, bass, the
Yeah.
whole thing. But it's gone through a lot of very different incarnations, especially
Sure.
aesthetically. But I think that's a reasonable summary of what we've done so far.
That sounds pretty cool. It's not every day you find somebody that was a passionate athlete that turns musician.
Yeah, it wasn't my choice.
Right, right.
I was just too clumsy.
So I'm guessing as an athlete you had some influences, you know, with your Michael Jordan or whoever it was that inspired you. Whenever you decided to pick up your guitar and start approaching this original songwriting, who kind of influenced you to do that, or who was some of your bigger influences on your particular methods of songwriting?
You know, I think about this a lot, and it's kind of the same story as the evolution of the band in general. There were the things that had inspired me as a child,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the kind of music I liked, and then the kind of music that I felt really spoke to me as a young adult when I started playing music for a living. You know, your Damien Rice, Ben Harper, that kind of thing. And then over time, you know, I mean, I'm always trying to put myself in new rooms.
Sure.
You know, with strange people and new ideas, and see how I react to bouncing off of those concepts. I would say Josh Ritter is a pretty huge influence. I think he's got a similar quote-unquote problem
Mm-hmm.
to the one that I have, which is very clearly he has novels living inside him, and he's trying to find a way to get those out in a reasonable amount of time. You know, these bite-sized just peeks behind the curtain
Right.
of what that story might look like in its complete form. On the other hand, I mean, you'd be shocked at the rather eclectic mix of music that I like in my personal life.
Sure.
I grew up with a lot of like old soul
Mm-hmm.
and R&B, and also, you know, James Taylor, Paul Simon, Johnny Cash.
Right.
And I think that combination of kind of folk, Americana, and soul and R&B is probably my home. It's
Sure.
where I'm at my most comfortable. But I think that's sort of an odd mix. It certainly feels that way at shows. I think we run the gamut.
Sure, it's eclectic. and
genre-wise.
It comes through at your shows that
hope
you have
so.
some soul influence in there,
Yeah.
especially with the vocals.
Yeah.
Definitely comes through, and some of the arrangements as
Yeah,
well.
you don't want to be in a box. And I mean, who knows? Next year or the year after, maybe I'll get turned on to something else. I don't want to keep doing something just because it's comfortable.
Right.
I'd rather, hit my head against the ceiling and look for a way out of a window.
And to speak to that, so you guys are out of Tupelo.
We are.
There's a lot of bands that make their kind of bread and butter doing covers in the Tupelo scene
Yeah.
and playing kind of the same repertoire that the crowd has
Sure.
liked and likes, whether it's the top hits from the 80s or the top hits from last week.
Definitely.
I know you said you're really busy, 200 shows.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not able to do that in Tupelo. Do you
No.
think that your original
That
songwriting
would be good.
did that set you apart from some of the scene in Tupelo and help you guys, kind of get out to the road?
I don't know that I would have any desire to be set apart from the scene in Tupelo. I think, especially on a personal level, my personal musical journey started somewhere between sneaking in to see the Spunk Monkeys when I was like 16, or catching a brunch show, which no longer happens, unfortunately, at the Stables, and seeing Eric Stogner.
Sure.
At 1 o'clock on a Saturday.
Great musician.
Unbelievable musician. And I had an epiphany somewhere along the way. As a musician who was playing and being paid to play. And the epiphany I had was everything is kind of your own version. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some cover bands who I've heard, some unbelievable musicians who can perform a piece and it's like putting a CD in.
Just emulate.
Which is a level of musicianship
Sure.
to which I can barely even aspire.
Perfection.
But most of the music I like, and certainly the music I perform, even when I'm doing someone else's song, it's my version. I'm not setting out to recreate what they did. I'm setting out to riff on ideas that I found interesting.
Definitely.
And as far as the shows we do, we do a couple hundred shows a year. The vast majority of those are out of the area. Again, not by choice. There's just not necessarily the volume here to
Right.
support that kind of work. But a great number of those shows, certainly more than half, are the vast majority of the material is quote unquote cover material.
Sure.
And it took me a while to get at home with that. When I first started playing, I was doing coffee shops. I did Starbucks on West Main Street in Tupelo every Sunday for about a year and a half. It was a great way to kind of cut your teeth as a musician. You'll be right in the middle of some sensitive piece that you're very proud of, and a blender comes on.
Right.
And I think that's healthy.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
I think it's humbling, and it was an amazing thing to have a platform for original material. But I also found that it was going to be tough to finance my ability to continue doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a real aversion to playing bars, that
Yeah.
kind of thing, because I thought, it's not real. You're just going in and kind of regurgitating whatever's on the radio that people want to hear, and I don't. That didn't really appeal to me. I wanted to share my ideas, these new original thoughts that I was having. And what I found was I could do that all I wanted in my living room. But if I wanted to connect with people, I couldn't be so arrogant that I wasn't willing to meet them where they were.
Right.
And I spent a lot of time thinking about how best to do that, because I knew I was never going to be the guy at home studying tablature,
Right.
Trying to work that out. So I thought, I'm going to give some thought to the music that people already like and why they like it, and take notes, take lessons. I kind of consider those shows in many ways, an education
Right.
in music and what works, and why I think music is valuable as an art form, in that you can connect people, old, young, black, white, whatever whatever faith might be important to you. Very, very different people can all feel this connectedness
Right.
in a room. And I thought that was beautiful. And I didn't want any arrogance I might have about how I wanted to play my stuff.
Right.
I didn't want that to stand in the way, selfishly, of my ability to be part of that connection.
You kind of tapped into that universal language of music.
Well, I hope so. I think I'm still working. I'm trying to do that. But I find real beauty in those stories. And at some point you get at home with the idea that there's nothing new under the sun.
Sure.
Whatever I'm writing, Bob Dylan did it better.
Right.
Almost certainly. So if someone asks me to play Wagon Wheel, I try not to give that look that a lot of musicians might give. And instead, I just play a movie in my head of Bob Dylan hitchhiking.
And Dylan stole it all from Woody Guthrie.
Very much, right. And I mean, you can wind that back as far as you want.
Right.
And I just decided to embrace it. And if something makes people happy, well, maybe that's an okay thing that at least deserves some investigation. Now, I still feel that those kinds of shows finance my ability to do what I'd really like to do,
right.
which is get out there on the plank and try to talk my way back onto the ship, which is what I think songwriting really is. And we've got a few shows like that coming up. We've been very lucky that some people have heard our music and appreciated it and given us opportunities to go share that with people who I don't know that I would meet in any other context in my life. So
very cool.
I think covers are great. I just think you should try to put yourself into whatever you're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, back to you guys playing 200 shows and all of this that's led us up to you guys being on the road. You said since 2010, the Bonfire Orchestra.
Yeah.
What is a very memorable moment that you had on the road, whether it's something bad, something funny, or an achievement or a benchmark that you reached? Just what would you say is a very stick-out memory for the Bonfire Orchestra or for Michael Thomas?
That's a really interesting question. There are a lot of them. And I meant what I said earlier. Everyone who I've ever played music with, every venue I've ever been to, so this is good, bad, ugly, happy endings, not so happy endings. I am grateful for all of it. It taught me. Once I decided I wanted to be a student in life, I felt better every day. And a lot of those stories, unfortunately the ones that jump to mind aren't necessarily the good ones, especially at the time, you don't necessarily feel that way. So I'm trying to think of one that I think is more than just an event. We were playing in Nashville. It was the first time the band had ever gone to Nashville. Everyone has this feeling that that's where musicians go to make it. I've never found that to be true. I like Nashville. I think I actually prefer maybe Murfreesboro or Franklin. Being in the outskirts.
Right, more eastern.
Well, yeah, and just as a matter of intimidation, you go to Nashville, there's an unbelievable musician on every corner playing for free for the exposure. And I feel like there's this expectation that everything's going to be so great that it's tough to stand out. But we went for the first time, and we didn't really know what it was going to be like. We had a few shows lined up, and we played those. And they were not paying gigs. And somehow, we ran out of money. And we were trying to figure out how to get home.
Right.
The five of us. So everybody was thinking about who they could call, and I said, get your stuff. Let's go to Broadway. And we set up on the side of the road and busked for several hours. And we probably made $100.
Yeah.
But it was fantastic.
Gas to get home.
The feeling of having a person stop.
Sure.
Was really rewarding. And I mean, you don't want to be in a position where, you got to play to eat, play to get back to your house. But it was it was better than any stage in front of 20,000 people I've ever been on.
I can surely relate there.
Because I felt like a musician. That's what a musician really is.
There was many
is
days in New
smelly
Orleans,
vans
I
with a
was
bunch of
trying
guys.
to make my streetcar ticket back home,
Yeah.
and a little money to go get some groceries.
Well, it humbles you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing.
I would say it's where I cut my teeth, was
Yeah.
busking.
Yeah.
So,
If you can take that with you,
anytime I
boy,
get
being
that
on a
experience.
stage, it's going to make you real unlikely to complain about the mix.
That's a cool story. Something that I remember from back in you guys' kind of early days, a story that I heard. And I don't even know if it's quite
Stories
correct,
I
but
heard about myself.
Maybe
Yeah.
you can lead us back down this memory lane.
Please, I'm
You
interested.
used to have a stand-up bass in the band.
We did?
And
Oh,
now it's
I know the
transitioned
story.
to acoustic. So
Sure.
I mean, not to acoustic, but to a standard electric bass.
Mm-hmm. It's because those are harder to destroy.
Right. So
Yeah.
what happened with the stand-up bass?
One of my best friends, a guy named Seth Parker, was my bass player for the last several years. He's doing some other things now, but for his birthday a few years ago, I, with a few friends, pulled some money together, and we bought him an upright bass that was made for him out of California. They shipped it over. It was beautiful. It was beautiful, and it was expensive. It hurts to talk about it. But it was the kind of instrument that you hear is only supposed to sound better 100 years from now.
You're right.
You know, the wood's going to last forever. We were on our way to a show in, I don't know, Hernando or something. And we were driving a van that we had gotten for the purpose of traveling around with the band. But there was no back seat. So we had a love seat, an unsecured love seat,
Oh, no.
just sitting behind the two driver's seats. And behind that was all the equipment. And this works rather well as long as you don't knock the cup off the table. But we were on our way through New Albany to pick up our drummer, and there was a line of traffic in front of us. We began to slow, and then I was hit from behind with another vehicle, which caused us to push forward. Pulled the wheel to the side, and we flip off of a ravine. It's probably that I don't have the good sense, but things like that have never really bothered me. You know, I mean, I screamed, "Hold on!" to everybody, and batten down. I remember hearing the glass crush, feeling the roll, and then immediately, popping out of the seatbelt, getting out of the window, which was now just open, putting my hand in, getting Seth out. Hunter was a little stuck under the love seat that had previously functioned as the back seat in the back, and everything had flipped upside down, obviously, including us. And we began to, because I'm still in the mindset of, we have to get to this show, so, all right, let's form a chain and get the stuff up the hill, and I'll talk it out with the state trooper, and we need to call somebody and rent a U-Haul. We didn't end up playing that show. At least one of my band members was hyperventilating, which eventually I became sensitive to.
Right.
But as we began to take the things out, it was clear that the bass amp, along with many other heavy items, had ended up on top of the bass. It was a crushed mess.
Mm.
Now, I remember even at the time going, well, that's disappointing. But my friends were okay.
Right.
And that was, there's a picture on Facebook floating around somewhere of the van upside down off the side of the road. It's kind of scary when you look back on it. But the upright bass lesson was, I don't know that I took the right lesson from it. I took gear is expensive, I'll just use the cheap stuff. You'd never believe this. I sit here in a suit because I'm a financial advisor during the day. I run my practice 40 hours a week, do music 40 hours a week, and we're planning a wedding.
Right.
But punk is kind of where my heart really lives. Every stage I'm looking for something to climb.
Yeah.
So I don't mind, running with gear that looks like it was in that van crash. And I think maybe that upright was just too good for us.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool story. Really enjoyed talking to you and finding out more
Thanks.
about what's going on behind the scenes with Bonfire Orchestra and Michael Thomas.
Sure.
Can you tell our audience if they wanted to find some of your music or look for tour dates, keep up with you and some more of these interesting stories, where would they go to get in touch with you?
Sure. Over the years, I hope I've gotten better at this spiel part, but two things coming up that I think are important. One, we're playing the Blue Canoe in Tupelo on June 8th.
Okay.
I think that show will probably start at maybe 8 o'clock that night. That will be a very original, heavy show with a few select covers that we think kind of fit in the context of who we are.
I've seen you guys there. It's a great show.
You know, I love that venue. I feel like as a place in Tupelo, it really gives original musicians an opportunity to shine. So
Absolutely.
we're doing that on June 8th at the Blue Canoe in Tupelo. And then we're also playing for the city of Tupelo for July 4th, which is obviously going to be on July 4th. And I think they've moved that back to Ballard Park this year.
Awesome.
And that's just going to be a blast and a ton of people. So, and you can bring your whole family, and we love being a part of that kind of thing. As far as finding us online, the simplest answer is really to type our band name into Google, Bonfire Orchestra. You'll get 30 pages of just us, our Facebook, our Twitter, our YouTube, etc.
Sure.
So I would suggest just Googling Bonfire Orchestra, and you know, we'd love to meet you. So come to a show and, you know, share some of your stories with us so I can steal them for a song.
Well, Michael, thanks for coming in, man.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you.
Thank you. It was a
talking to
pleasure.
us. Everybody, I'm Seth Flake for TV 99 North Mississippi. This is In the Key of Life. We'll see you next time.
I tried to forget it all summer long. Some things just aren't meant to